Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game where we will be showcasing the prowess of the great Samuel Reshevsky. The reason we're making this detour, I already mentioned it in the previous video, but in case you're just joining us, is because, well, in 1966 during the second Piatigorsky Cup, Reshevsky went undefeated until he faced Bobby Fischer in round 11, and some of you said in the comments that you've never really heard of this Reshevsky guy, but he's obviously very strong and plays really well against Fischer. And then we've sort of mentioned their rivalry and you guys were interested, so I decided to show you a few games he played against some notable players of the past, like Capablanca, like Lasker, and so on. So this is the second game, and it takes a year. It takes place a year after the Margrave tournament of 1935, where he defeated Capablanca. This is the Nottingham tournament of 1936, and it was the strongest tournament ever held in 1936. And even by today's standards, we could easily, you know, maybe make it that it's one of the top 20 tournaments that were ever held. I don't know if we could push it to top 10, but definitely into top 20. And it's notable for very, very important reasons. For example, it featured 5 world champions. 3 former world champions, Emanuel Lasker here, Jose Raul Capablanca, and Alexander Alechin. The reigning world champion, Dr. Max Uwe, as Uwe won the title against Alechin in 1935. He's the world champion here. And okay, Alechin will take it back in 1937, and we have the future world champion playing in this tournament as well. He's 1 year older. Reshevsky is 24 years old here. Mikhail Botvinnik is 25 years old. He will, of course, be the future world champion. And it was a shared victory for a young Botvinnik and the 47-year-old Jose Raul Capablanca. Both of them played an incredible tournament. Botvinnik only won undefeated, and Capablanca won loss, but he had an extra victory over Botvinnik. He didn't defeat Botvinnik, they drew their game, but he had an extra victory, and I guess there weren't any tiebreaker rules. It was just a shared first place, because sometimes it was more important to win more games than to be undefeated, which I think is also the better criteria, as it opts for more fighting games. And Lasker, he had an interesting event up until this point. This is round 11, and he has 2 losses and 3 wins. Other games were drawn. And Reshevsky has 2 losses going into this one. He lost the reigning world champion Max Uwe in round 1. It was a very, very impressive game by Uwe. And he also lost to Capablanca. So Capablanca did get his revenge for the loss in Margrave in 1935. And it's interesting, I didn't mention this in the previous video. Reshevsky and Capablanca played 6 games altogether. So you guys don't think that that game is the only game they ever played. They played 6 games. The previous one was obviously won by Reshevsky. In Nottingham in 1936, it was Capablanca who was victorious, and 4 of the games they played after that, they were all drawn. So Reshevsky, one of the few players that does not have a negative score against the great Cuban. But yeah, let's check it out. This is Lasker wielding the white pieces. Reshevsky has black. Lasker was 67 years old here, if you guys are wondering. No doubt. I mean, he played until a very old age. But yeah, this is his last big tournament he's playing in. So Lasker with white opens with pawn to d4. We have pawn to d5, c4, and at that time Reshevsky was a big favorite of the, not favorite, big you know, sort of champion of the Queen's Gambit accepted. So d captures on c4. We have knight f3, knight to f6, and here pawn to e3. In the game, Reshevsky played against Capablanca. In this tournament, Capablanca went for queen to a4 check in the game that Capablanca won. So pawn e3, we have pawn to e6, and bishop captures on c4. Pawn to c5, knight to c3, pawn to a6, and castles kingside. We have pawn to b5, bishop goes to d3, and c captures on d4. Nowadays, bishop to b7 is preferred, but I think it was known at that time as well. It's just that Sammy wanted to get a game against Lasker. So captures, e captures on d4, we have bishop to b7 and bishop to g5. He already defeated Capablanca, so, you know, he will play, of course, for a win against anyone. And against the 67-year-old world champion, I do believe that Sammy considered himself to be the favorite going into this one, even with the black pieces. So bishop to e7, we have queen to e2, castles kingside, and rook a to d1. So still modern theory even, gets these positions. This is nothing new. Knight bd7, we have knight to e5, and now knight to d5. Sort of the unburdening maneuver where you will trade on c3, you will trade the bishops, and then black will, just have a nice game. It's very hard for white to do anything here. Like if you just play bishop captures on e7 and trade everything, let's say captures and captures, you go bishop e4. Okay, I mean, you can play it, but let's say captures, knight f6 attacks the queen. Not much to do here. Where do you go? Queen d3, queen b1, this pawn is never coming to d5. The knight might come to d5. It's 2 versus 2 on the queen side. If anything, black is better here. So after knight to d5, Lasker said, okay, I'm just going to go back, bishop to c1. Interestingly, some years, well, not some years, 66 years after this game was played in 2002, Artur Yusupov will have this position against Alexei Shirov and will play bishop to d2, which is, well, probably a little bit stronger than bringing the bishop all the way back. And then after knight captures, the bishop will get to this diagonal. But he also lost that game to Shirov, so, who's to say what's better? The engine prefers Yusupov's move, but he still lost. So okay, bishop to c1 by Lasker, and now knight captures on c3. And of course, it is now as of move 14 that we have a completely new game. Knight captures on c3, b captures, and knight to f6. Avoiding a trade on e5, even though you could do it. Let's say you play knight captures, queen captures, and then queen d5. I think while you can play this, let's say queen captures, bishop captures, and then you will have immense pressure. I think Lasker, the great psychologist that he was, maybe tricked Reshevsky into thinking that this was bad, or maybe that he had this prepared. All in all, it's not winning for black. It's just more pleasant. You have this incredible pressure on the queen side. You have 2 versus 1 on the queen side. And, probably you double up rooks here. And you have constant pressure on this backward c3 pawn. So it's definitely more pleasant to play with black. But he decided against it. He played knight to f6, and he said, I'm going to go for an attack here. And Lasker says, all right, we've pulled that off. Let's now play pawn to a4, get rid of this pawn. We have queen to d5 threatening checkmate, and now just knight to f3. Interesting that Lasker did not play pawn to f4, which defends g2 with the queen and really improves that knight on e5. He probably wanted to have his queen mobile and decided that it was better to play knight back to f3. And it does appear to be more solid, plus you don't push pawns. So okay, knight f3, and now rook f to c8. You could also play the immediate knight e4, but I guess Samuel wanted to prevent Lasker from executing c4, so he made sure that c4 is no longer an option, and now Lasker cannot no longer wait. He has to play captures on b5, and that's it. Captures, bishop to d2, and after, let's say, rook to a2, he just trades off everything. Rook to a1, rook c to a8, you trade on a2, captures, and it looks scary, but, nothing to worry about. Rook to b1, you put pressure on b5, and there's nothing to worry about here. However, Lasker played bishop to d2. He decided to wait a little bit longer. Sorry, if he didn't go bishop d2, bishop to d2 would still be an okay move, but he played bishop to b2, and now he allows knight to e4, and after rook to c1, as, okay, the c3 pawn is being pressured, he allows knight to g5, and it's very, very weird why you would do this. Probably he had something in mind, or maybe he just overlooked something, but he played a captures on b5, and after a captures on b5, he went bishop captures on b5, and this simply cannot be done. Here, if you actually wanted to play this, you can go into an endgame. You have to play rook to a1, and then allow pawn to b4, and then, okay, let's say you trade rooks, captures, and then c captures on b4, bishop captures, and you go rook a1, and maybe hope that you can hold. Rook d8, you're going to play bishop to e6, but black will always capture on f3 and win a pawn. Let's say queen captures, g captures, and the bishop will finally capture on f3. And you will have this weird endgame where it's 2 sets of bishop pairs and a pair of rooks where Reshevsky is up a pawn. Plus, he has a better pawn structure. Lasker 3 pawn islands, Reshevsky 1 very, very strong, firm pawn island. So he would definitely be pushing this for a win. Whether he will win it or not, whether he would win it, hard to say. I mean, it is Lasker we're talking about. but you know, we'll never get to find out because Lasker played bishop captures on b5 here. I think it's already, you know, the round 11 of the tournament. Lasker being 67 years old, he mixed something up here because it's not that there's just one winning move. There are more ways to win this. You could go rook to a2, which is very nice, but you don't have to. You could also play the move that all of you are thinking about, and that is knight captures on f3. This is what was played, and not much to be done here. Queen captures is not an option because you lose the bishop on b5. And then the bishop on b7 is also defended, so that's not going to happen. So g captures was played, and now, or rather, you could play it, I mean, captures and then captures here, but now the queen is hanging and also the bishop here is hanging. And once you defend that bishop, queen g5 will threaten checkmate, and probably this is what Lasker missed. However you defend this, let's say play pawn to g3, queen d5 is extremely annoying. And then you have to play pawn to f3, and this is, well, you don't have to look for a win here. You know that this is winning for black. You're up a piece, and also white's position is completely messed up. So g captures was played to keep a material balance on the board, but now Reshevsky just played queen to g5, and he was in this position on move 22 that former world champion Emanuel Lasker resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Whatever you play, you're gonna lose. For example, king to h1 is the only move, queen to h5 is coming, or you don't have to. You can play queen f4, queen f5, but it is enough to win the game. There's no way to counter bishop to d6. f4 will of course be impossible due to the pin, so very little that you can do here. Also, just bishop captures on f3 can win the queen if you don't want to checkmate the white king. So there is no way to stop bishop captures on f3. If you go king back to g1, then bishop to d6, now threatening mate here, and that's pretty much it. Pawn to f4 it stops the dark square bishop, but it allows checkmate via the queen and the light square bishop, and that's it. The white king has no more squares. You're gonna have to give up the queen, and you get checkmated. So hard to say what Lasker missed here, but after queen to g5, he resigned. As you can see, that there is nothing more that can be done here. And I will show the final standings of this event, because, you know, you might think, okay, Lasker is 67 years old. Why am I showing this game where he beats, you know, 67-year-old former world champion? But Lasker did incredibly well in this tournament. Let me just, sorry about that, make it a little bit larger so you guys can see. There you have it. So, like we said, the tournament was won shared first Mikhail Botvinnik with 0 losses and 6 wins, but Capablanca did lose that one game. However, he had 7 wins. And then well, sort of in second place, I guess, shared second, reigning world champion Dr. Max Uwe, Ruben Fine, and Samuel Reshevsky. And then we have Alexander Alekhin, former world champion, who also wrote a book on this tournament. If you guys are interested, you can get it. And then with 8.5 points, Salman Flor and Emanuel Lasker. So Lasker did very well. I mean, without, let's say, okay, it's hard to say, but, you know, 1.5 points, and he's shared first with Capablanca and Botvinnik. In this competition, of course, 1.5 points is a lot, but I mean, you could hardly say that that was a bad event. He has the same amount of victories as Mikhail Botvinnik, who won the tournament, but, you know, it's just that he lost 3 games, so it's not terrible. But yeah. Just wanted to share this and show you guys what kind of a player Reshevsky was, you know, crushing Capablanca, crushing Lasker in 26 moves. Okay, maybe crushing Capablanca is a bit of a reach, because if you haven't seen the previous video, I recommend you check it out. It was Capablanca who was pushing for the win. Reshevsky was also pushing for the win, but, you know, without Capablanca also pushing for the win, you know, never would have really happened. But you know, also important to mention that, yeah, out of the 6 games they played, Reshevsky won 1, Capablanca won 1, and 4 of the games were a draw. But yeah, outside all of this, also the tournament was very important, as it was the first victory of Mikhail Botvinnik outside of the Soviet Union, winning such a notable tournament, and everyone knew what was what, that he was definitely a contender for the title. And in the end, he didn't even have to challenge anyone for the title, as Aljechin died with the title of world champion still in his hands. A tournament was organized, and well, Botvinnik won, Smisl was second, and like we said, Reshevsky here was shared third. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're gonna cover this tournament at some point extensively, you know, cover all of the nice games and maybe share some stories. I would very much enjoy this, but yeah, we're gonna get to it. Now we're doing the second Piatigorsky Cup from the perspective of Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky, and then we're gonna see where we are going next with it. And for those of you who are wondering, the next big saga is coming. Not quite yet, you know, a little bit more, and it will come. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it and that you've learned a little bit more about the great Samuel Reshevsky. I would like to thank David Gasparian, Ferro Gerald, Mike Manson, Rohaho Hochstetler, and more classics for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.